Welcome to the second lesson of the Google Sheets Essential Training. In this lesson, we will start creating the first formulas and copy them across the table. We will then learn how to name ranges in Google Sheets to create cleaner formulas and keep a better track of them. We will end this lesson with an overview of the most used Google Sheets functions. Let's start. Formulas and functions are the bread and butter of Google Sheets. They drive almost everything interesting and useful you will ever do in a spreadsheet. Anyways, what is a formula? A formula in Excel is an expression that returns a specific result. For example, 1 plus 2 plus 3 returns 6. 6 divided by 3 returns 2. As a note, all the formulas in Excel must begin with an equals sign. When entering the formula, to save time, you can also use the plus sign. This will be automatically converted to the equals sign once you validate the formula by clicking Enter. In the examples above, values are hard-coded. That means results won't change unless you edit the formula again and change a value manually. Generally, this is considered a bad form, because it hides information and makes it harder to maintain a spreadsheet. Instead, we can use cell references so values can be changed at any time. In the screen below, E1 contains the following formula, equals B1 plus C1 plus D1. Notice because we are using cell references for B1, C1, and D1, these values can be changed at any time and E1 will still show an accurate result. Let's change the values to 6, 7 and 8. The new sum is calculated automatically and not reads 21. All the formulas in Google Sheets return a result, even when the result is an error. Let's see what will happen if we try to divide our result from the cell E1 with 0. Yes, we are receiving an error. In this case, it is clearly indicated that we tried a division by 0. There are different ways of handling error messages. Follow the course to see how to deal with the different errors in Google Sheets. What is a function? The functions are predefined formulas in Google Sheets. They eliminate laborious manual entry of formulas while giving them human-friendly names. For example, sum of B1 to D1. The function sums all the values from B1 to D1. As you can see, this is returning the same value as in cell E1. You will see the advantage of using this function in the next minute, as we are moving to a more complex table in the sheet called Lesson 2. In this sheet, we have the monthly sales of 6 imaginary sales agents of the northern and southern regions. In addition, in column C we have the total sales of the previous year, so 12 months sales. In this exercise, we would like to see first the total sales of each person for the 6 months in scope, January to June. We have here two options on writing the formulas. For Charlotte, the total sales of the current year will read D2, plus E2, plus F2, plus G2, plus H2, plus I2. Kind of a long formula if you ask me, and clearly less easy to follow afterward if you need to change anything inside. The other option will be to use the sum function. In this case, the formula will need to be written as follows. Equal. Sum. Open parenthesis or press tab. Select with the mouse the data points you want to add together. And close parenthesis or press tab to finalize the formula. The result is the same but the formula looks neat, short and it is easy to follow. If you ever doubt what exact cells are referenced in a formula, double-click on the cell with the formula in question. You will see, on top of the table, the formula equation with all the cell references wearing different colors. For Charlotte, where we use the plus sign, you will see all the individual cells we selected, each on a different color. On the table, you will see all these cells marked with a selection following the same color code as in the formula above. Orange for D2, purple for E2, light blue for F2, you get the point. For Emma, where we use the sum function, you see a continuous selection of the area we selected. Since we have one continuous selection, there is only one color showing on the formula. This visual check will be useful when you will copy the formulas in your table. It will help you validate that your cell references are well set. More details in the next lesson touching the cell references topic. We need to calculate the totals for the other 4 sales agents and here we can take several paths. First, the almighty copy-paste. We select the cell with the formula and click Ctrl-C to copy. Then, we select the rest of the sales agent's lines and hit Ctrl-V to paste. Note that if you copy a cell with a formula inside, by default Google Sheet will copy that formula and not the cell value. Moreover, Google Sheets will automatically change the formula by adapting it to the next location. What does it mean in our case? Adding the values of the columns D to I, of the specific line where we have the formula copied. The second option is to use the fill handle. Select the cell J3 and click on the square formed on the lower right corner. With the mouse button still pressed, drag the selection down to line 7 and then release the mouse button. This will copy the formula you initially selected over the entire selection. The third and maybe the more useful way to copy formulas if you have a well-defined table, is to simply double-click on the lower right corner of the cell with the formula. Double-clicking the plus sign copies the formula down, as far as there is any data to the left. In other words, as long as you have data in the left column, Google Sheet continues to copy the formula. As soon as an empty row occurs, the autofill stops. So, if your worksheet contains any gaps, you will have to repeat the above process to copy the formula below an empty row. Let's see this by clearing the data in cell I6 and double-click on the corner of cell J3. You see that now, the formula is only copied until line I5 because there is no data to the left of cell J6. Congratulations! You entered and copied your first formula in Google Sheets. Let's talk now about the named ranges. Named ranges can make formulas easier to understand, debug, simplify the creation of complicated spreadsheets, and simplify your macros. A named range is just a range, either a single cell, or a range of cells, to which you assign a name. For example, all the sales for the month of January are present in the range D2 to D7. If you want to write the sum of all the sales of January, you will write, sum, open parenthesis, D2 colon D7, close parenthesis. It is easy if you are on the same sheet where the data is. Otherwise, it is slightly more complicated, prone to errors, and hard to read when you try to explain your file to someone else. Let's say that we need the total monthly sales and the total sales of the last year on a dashboard that we will create on a different sheet. For this, we move to the sheet called Overview, and here we start entering the formulas. For the total sales of the previous year, we write equals sum. Then we select the other sheet with the data, and with the mouse button clicked we select the range C2 to C7. We finalize the formula by clicking Tab, and here is our result. When you look at the formula, it is hard to say what is that C2 to C7 range of the other sheet. Imagine how complex this became when you have complicated formulas. The easiest way will be to create a range for each month, and then use that easy to remember name in the formulas. Let's do this together for the first 2 months of the year. Move to the Lesson 2 sheet and select the sales of the month of January. Click on the cell D2, keep the mouse button down while moving on top of the cell D7 and then release the mouse button. From here, with the selection active, you can either go to the menu, Data, Named Ranges, or simply enter a relevant name for the section in the name box situated just to the top of the table, to the left. Let's call our selection Sales January. When you enter the new name for the range, you will need to keep in mind the following rules. Can contain only letters, numbers, and underscores. Cannot start with a number, or the words true or false. Cannot contain any spaces or punctuation. Must be 1 to 250 characters. Cannot be in either A1 or R1C1 syntax. For example, you might get an error if you give your range a name like A1:B2 or R1C1:R2C2. Let's select now the sales for the month of February. With the selection active, let's click on the menu on Data and then Named Ranges. On top, we will write the name of the range, on our case Sales February, and confirm by clicking on Done. Since we have the Named Ranges window open, let's see what we can do here. Of course, we can add new ranges from here by clicking Add a Range, or we can modify or delete existing named ranges. For this, let's select the Sales January and click on the pen icon to the right. Now you can change the name, the range, or even delete the named range if you click on the trash bin. A good habit if you expect more data to be added to your table is to delete the last number from the data range definition. In our case, I will delete the 7 and leave the selection ending with D2:D. This means that our selection will be the entire column D from line 2 until the end of the file. Click Done to confirm the changes. Let's see the named ranges in action. We move to the Overview sheet, and we start entering the formulas for the January and February sales. Let's see. Equals sum, tab. And now I want to enter the name of the range we just created. S. And here I have already a suggestion with the ranges having names starting with S. I am selecting Sales January and close the formula by hitting Tab. As I said before, I prefer using the tab for opening and closing the main parenthesis as I find it faster. I do the same for February. Equals sum, tab, S. I select Sales February and hit Tab to confirm the formula. You got the point. And now, if I want to see what I am calculating in cell B5, I find very clear information. It is the sum of the sales of January. We will use the named ranges a lot in the rest of our course to simplify our life. I hope that you will get this habit as well in your files once you will see how beneficial it can be. To recap, here are some of the reasons you will love using the named ranges. First, named ranges have an explicit name. This makes it simpler for you or any user to understand your formulas or track errors. Second, named range allows you to type formulas faster. When typing the beginning of a named range in a formula, a tooltip will suggest your existing named ranges. You can double-click it or press Tab to validate the choice. This can prove very useful, especially to avoid navigating between different sheets looking for one range and then another. Third, named ranges are very useful for macros and programming in general, but this will be covered on one of the advanced training modules. Let's move now to the last part of this lesson and see some more formulas and functions. On the written material, you will find an extract of some useful formulas grouped on various topics as financial, date and time, text, statistics, etc. Some of the formulas are intuitive, while for others you will need to practice a while before grasping how to use them. In any case, you do not need to worry, since, for every formula, you have a basic instruction material at hand at all times. Let's see what this means while we are entering our next formula in the Lesson 2 sheet. This time, aside from the total sales of January to June, we would like to calculate the monthly average sales of each agent. Select the cell K2 and then let's try to find a function for this average calculation. Go in the menu to Insert Function. And now hover on top of the statistical group of functions. Here, you can see a few functions starting with the word average. If you move your mouse on top of them, you will see a brief description of the function. In our case, we will pick the average function. Once you click on it, you are presented with the formula of this function, an example, and some more hints on the variables. If this help is not visible, you will have a question mark to the left of your working cell. By clicking the question mark, the function help will be displayed. Once you're getting better at using the functions, you can hide this help dialog by clicking on the X button here. For now, let's reactivate the help dialog by clicking on the question mark. So, for average we need to enter the range of values in scope. In our case, it will be the sales of each agent in the period January to June. So for Charlotte, we will select D2 to I2. Hit Tab to close the formula. But what is average? It is the total sales divided by the number of months, correct? Let's validate our data in column K by creating an average check in column L. In here, we enter the formula. Equals J2 divided by 6. J2 is the sum of sales. 6 is the number of months from January to June. So the average check will be total sales divided by 6. And yes, no surprise, the values are identical. Let's see what was Charlotte's worst monthly sales. For this, we want to find the minimum sales value of that period. Easy to guess, but our function will be called min. Let's write the formula now. Equals min. Tab. Select the sales of January to June and close the formula by hitting Tab one more time. Let's do something very similar and find the highest monthly sales value by using the function called max. Equals max. Tab. Select the sales of January to June and close the formula by hitting Tab one more time. Not bad. All we need now is to copy these formulas to the next lines and our job is done. Select the cells J2 to N2, go to the lower right corner of the selection, and once your pointer changes into a cross, double-click your left mouse button, or just the mouse button if you have a Mac. All the data is now calculated, but before finalizing this lesson, hit with noticing something. The average values for lines 6 and 7 are not identical in columns K and L. This is because the function average returns the numerical average value in a dataset, ignoring the text. In our table, we have 2 empty cells for the holiday months of 2 of the agents. Because the cells are empty, Google Sheets is reading them as blank, and this is not considered by default 0. So when you have to work with mathematical and statistical functions, always make sure that your entire table is populated with the right data type and that all the empty cells are replaced with 0. Let's fix the problem in our table by writing 0 in the empty cells. You see now that our average and average check are reading the same values. Okay, this is it for this lesson. Check the function cheat sheet on the course webpage, exercise with the shared file, and when ready, move on to lesson 3 touching the topic of cell reference.